Let's now start with our top story. The Taliban and the Afghan government have held a virtual meeting on the prisoner release issue under the Doha Agreement. This is the first interaction between the two sides since the signing of the peace agreement on February 29th. U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said the prisoners released by both sides will be an important step in the political peace process. He said all sides conveyed their commitment to a reduction in violence, intra-Afghan talks, and a permanent ceasefire. Khalilzad said all involved parties have also agreed to a follow-on technical meeting in the next 2 days. The Taliban spokesperson Sohail Shaheen said a discussion was held in the presence of Qatari and American representatives. He said only the prisoners' release was discussed, while other issues will be discussed during the intra-Afghan negotiations. Iran's foreign ministry says hasty measures taken by the U.S. administration for the peace process are the main reason of instability in Afghanistan. The foreign ministry said a hurried deal with the Taliban and Washington's ignorance of domestic issues led to a political crisis in the war-torn country. In a statement, the ministry said Iran is alarmed by the unpredictable consequences of disputes over the Afghan presidential poll results. It said the U.S. signed the peace deal with the Taliban to boost the election campaign of President Donald Trump. It said by prioritizing its self-interest, Washington has caused an escalation of political tensions in Afghanistan. The ministry said the Islamic Republic is closely monitoring political and security developments in the neighboring country. Well, Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has also said the U.S. sanctions on Tehran are impeding the global fight against the coronavirus pandemic. In a tweet, Zarif said, despite global pressure, Washington is not lifting curbs on Tehran. The foreign minister said the only remedy in this situation is to defy Washington's mass punishment as its only moral imperative. Pakistan, China, and Russia have already asked the U.S. to lift sanctions on Iran to combat the rising threat of COVID-19. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan requested the U.S. to lift the curbs on Iran on humanitarian grounds till the end of the coronavirus crisis. Khan said Iranians are facing untold suffering as sanctions are crippling their country's efforts to fight COVID-19. Well, countries around the world are increasingly adopting sweeping measures to stem the spread of the new coronavirus. Saudi Arabia has imposed a nationwide curfew after a jump of almost 25% in coronavirus cases. This report has the details.
The world is struggling to beat the new coronavirus. Airports around the globe have been shut down, travel restrictions have been imposed, and borders have been completely sealed off. The United Arab Emirates has suspended all passenger and transit flights to and from the country. Singapore Airlines says it is grounding 96% of its fleet and look to raise funds. New Zealand has imposed a self-isolation with all non-essential services, schools and offices to be shut over the next 48 hours.
That's why Cabinet met today and agreed that effective immediately, we will move to Alert Level 3 nationwide. After 48 hours, the time required to ensure essential services are in place, we will move to Level 4. These decisions will place the most significant restrictions on New Zealanders' movements in modern history.
The U.S. state of New York has reported an increase of over 4,600 new cases of coronavirus in the past 24 hours. The new statistics shows that the New York state alone has 5% of global COVID-19 cases. President Trump says the U.S. is enduring a great national trial, but they will win against the coronavirus pandemic.
I approve the state of New York's request for a major disaster declaration, something which Governor Cuomo has been asking for and which I agree, and we had it done in very rapid fashion. We approved this on Friday evening, and we are working very, very hard to get all of these things not only signed up, but completed and finished and win.
Meanwhile, the situation in China continues to improve as no new domestic cases of COVID-19 was reported today.
On to Colombia now, where 23 people have died in a prison riot in the capital, Bogota. The country's justice ministry says 83 others were wounded. Officials said detainees were protesting unsanitary conditions amid the global outbreak of coronavirus. The justice minister said 7 prison guards were also wounded and 2 are in critical condition. The Andean country will enter a nationwide lockdown from Tuesday night. So far, 231 people have been infected with the disease in the country and 2 have died. In Brazil, 11 people have died and 17 others were injured after a bus collided into a truck in the southern state of Minas Gerais. Federal Highway Police said the accident took place around dawn along a highway near the town of Pirapora. Officials said the bus invaded the opposite lane and crashed into the oncoming truck. The bus was heading from the northeast Bahia state to the city, of Paracuta in Minas Gerais. Officials said all of the victims were men traveling aboard the bus. In India, 17 policemen have been killed in an attack by Maoist rebels in the eastern state of Chhattisgarh. Police say hundreds of rebels ambushed security forces in the forested Sukma district. More than 300 armed rebels took part in the attack on a police commando patrol. Officials said the attack was one of the deadliest ambushes in recent years by militants. Left-wing Maoist rebels have been fighting in eastern India since the 1960s, demanding more rights for poor and tribal groups. Thousands have been killed in the fighting. Also in India, protests and sit-ins against the controversial Citizenship Act have adapted themselves amid the coronavirus pandemic. New Delhi has been facing countrywide demonstrations against the law, killing 83 people since December 11th. The all-women sit-in at Delhi's Shaheen Bagh sticks to 5 protester limit, recording their protest against the law. Organizers said the protest will continue while keeping the safety precautions as a top priority. Earlier yesterday, the protest was attacked once again after an unidentified individual threw a petrol bomb near the protest site. Meanwhile, protesters across India have announced they will continue their demonstrations through social media. Organizers have asked protesters to record their videos against the law and to share them on different online platforms. Israeli forces have killed a Palestinian in the occupied West Bank. Palestine's health ministry says the youth was martyred in the Nailin region west of Ramallah. The health official said another Palestinian was wounded and taken to the Palestine Medical Complex in Ramallah. The Israeli army said its troops fired towards suspects hurling rocks at their vehicles driving on a highway. There were no reports of injuries to the motorists. Poland has held 6 by-elections despite the ongoing restrictions due to coronavirus. Pressure has continued to mount on ruling nationalists to call off upcoming May 10th presidential elections. The National Electoral Commission said protective measures were taken to ensure the vote in the designated by-elections goes ahead smoothly. Staff at voting booths were issued masks, disinfectant gels, and gloves for voters to use. Voters were also given single-use pens to mark their ballots. But some members of the election committee refused to participate and had to be replaced. Despite calls from opposition critics and candidates to call off the presidential election in May, the government says it will not postpone the poll. Pope Francis has called for worldwide prayer amid the coronavirus pandemic. The pontiff addressed the faithful in his Sunday Angelus message, which he has been delivering over the internet. Popes ordinarily deliver the special blessings only twice a year on Christmas and Easter. But his decision to make an exception underscores the gravity of the situation worldwide and particularly in Italy. He also expressed his closeness to the Croatian people that were hit by an earthquake yesterday.
Alla pandemia del virus.
We want to respond to the pandemic of the virus with the universality of prayer, of compassion, of tenderness. Let us stay united and make our closeness be heard, our closeness to the loneliest people and those who are suffering the most. Let us express our closeness to all doctors, medical staff, nurses, and volunteers.
Well, the Russian military will start sending medical help to Italy from Sunday to help it battle the new coronavirus. Russia's defense ministry has confirmed the sending of military assistance after receiving orders from President Vladimir Putin. This report has the details.
Putin spoke to Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte on Saturday, offering his support in the worst-hit Italian regions. Moscow said that army planes will deliver 8 mobile brigades of military medics, special disinfection vehicles, and other medical equipment to Italy. The Defense Ministry said Russia will also send about 100 military specialists in virology and epidemics. Italy recorded a jump in deaths from the coronavirus of almost 800 on Saturday, taking the toll in the world's hardest-hit country to almost 5,000. Russia itself has reported 306 cases of the virus, most of them in Moscow, and 1 coronavirus-related death.
Now, the medical charity MSF is setting up a 50-bed emergency center to treat severe COVID-19 cases in Iran. The French organization said a team of 9 intensive care medics will staff the facility on the grounds of the Amin Hospital in Isfahan. MSF said the aircraft should be ready to leave on the weekend. France is already contributing to a package of medical aid for Iran alongside Britain and Germany. This comes amid signs that the global fight against the coronavirus could help ease some diplomatic tensions. In recent days, Tehran freed a French academic in a prisoner swap that also saw the release of an Iranian engineer held in France. The Syrian town of Qamishli, located near the Turkish border, is taking steps to combat the spread of the coronavirus. In a civilian initiative, the exteriors of homes and public spaces are being sanitized. Places being disinfected include bakeries, stores that sell vegetables and meat, restaurants, and the homes of the elderly. Though resources are limited, organizers hope that people will collaborate in the fight against COVID-19. Syria has banned the entry of foreigners arriving from countries hit by the virus as part of widening measures to combat the epidemic. Although the regime says it has yet to document any infections, Syria is seen at high risk. I'll be back after this break with plenty more news. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, Pakistan is celebrating its National Day with simplicity amid the coronavirus outbreak and with a pledge to fight the pandemic. The government has cancelled all kinds of public gatherings, including a military parade, as precautionary measures amid COVID-19. Quoting the founder of Pakistan, President Arif Alvi said, "With unity, faith, and discipline, the country may compare with any nation of the world." Alvi said the countrymen must make up their minds to serve the people as we are all passing through a period of fear of coronavirus. Pakistan Day commemorates the Lahore Resolution presented on March 23, 1940, for a separate country for subcontinent's Muslims. Now, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says Islamabad is ready to host the SAARC conference involving the region's health ministers. He said this in a telephone call with his Nepalese counterpart Pradeep Kumar Gwawale. The Qureshi suggested that a video conference could be organized to formulate a strategy regarding the current global health emergency. The two foreign ministers also discussed ways to enhance mutual cooperation to combat the coronavirus pandemic. Qureshi said Pakistan has a stance that sanctions on Iran should be lifted so that relief can be provided at this time of crisis. The two officials reiterated mutual commitments to strengthen friendship as both countries are observing the 60th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Foreign Minister Qureshi has also spoken with his Sri Lankan counterpart on tackling the coronavirus pandemic. Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba has donated protective and medical equipment to Ethiopia. The first batch of the apparatus has reached the capital, Addis Ababa, as coronavirus cases soared above 1,100 across Africa. In a statement, the company's co-founder, Jack Ma's foundation, said that the flight carried over 5 million face masks and kits for over 1 million detection tests. The local disease control center said that only patients with symptoms will be tested. In a tweet, the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said that the distribution of supplies will start from today. The virus has spread more slowly in Africa than in Asia and Europe, but has a foothold in 41 African nations. It has claimed 37 lives across the continent of 1.3 billion people so far. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic may have put a damper on Mother's Day in Lebanon this year, but 3 students have come up with a new service to celebrate the occasion without flouting social distancing restrictions. This report has the details.
In a quiet Lebanese town under lockdown over the novel coronavirus, a drone buzzed towards a balcony to deliver a red rose to a mother grinning in surprise. Down in the street in the coastal town of Jobinai, 18-year-old Christopher Ibrahim texts a teenager who has ordered a flower drop-off for his mother. He slips a single rose in a ring hanging under the aircraft, and it lifts off into the air to carry the flower to its intended recipient.
The idea is I'm a drone operator. I film weddings and events with a drone. I'm studying engineering at the Lebanese University in Romania. So I come up with the idea of flying rose, where on Mother's Day we will deliver a rose to mothers via drone.
For a week, most of Lebanese have been ordered to remain at home to stem the spread of COVID-19. The airport has closed and all non-essential businesses have been told to shutter.
Another part of the project is about helping our country. Everything that we make from the project will be contributed to the Red Cross because they are the ones who need support the most during this period.
Ibrahim said each rose delivery costs between 10,000 to 20,000 Lebanese pounds. He added that the earning of this project will go to the Red Cross.
Well, the World Bank has approved $170 million to improve Bangladesh's sanitation services that will benefit 1.5 million residents. The World Bank says the Dhaka Sanitation Improvement Project will help improve the city's liability with safely managed sanitation services. The bank's country director for Bangladesh said 3.5 million people in Dhaka live in poor sanitation. She said the project, will help ensure safe sanitation, which is essential for reducing public health risks as well as extreme poverty. In Dhaka, untreated domestic sewage and industrial effluent are illegally discharged into rivers and canals, causing pollution and flooding. Well, Australia has announced an additional $38.5 billion in an emergency fiscal package, shoring up the government's total spending to $109 billion. Canberra has so far pledged around 10% of Australia's GDP in a bid to shelter the country's economy from coronavirus. More on that now in this report.
Global economy has been rattled by the coronavirus pandemic with a recession imminent. Governments, global financial and monetary institutions have pledged trillions of dollars to cushion against the economic fallout of COVID-19. Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison says the government is considering draconian measures to enforce social distancing to combat the coronavirus. Morrison said Australia will underwrite 50% in loans offered by local lenders to small and medium-sized companies.
The package of measures, combined with those we've already announced, sums to some $189 billion, for around 10% of the size of our economy. 10% of the size of our economy. That is unprecedented in this country. What we'll be doing, as I said, is focusing on those in the front line.
Costa Rica's Congress has approved $500 million line of credit with Development Bank of Latin America to combat the deadly disease, while European Commission approved 3 French state aid schemes to support its economy, mobilizing about $323 billion of liquidity. U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders said he is focusing on economic bailout instead of presidential race.
To me, this is an incredibly stressful time for everybody in this country. People are worried about getting sick. They're worried about the health of their kids. They're worried about the health of their parents. And we got to move aggressively, obviously, from a healthcare perspective. But at the very least, we should take the burden of financial duress off of people so they don't have that double issue that they have to struggle with.
The economy fallout of COVID-19 has choked global economies and sent global stock markets crashing to historic lows.
Asian stock markets are trading mixed as fears over economic impact of global coronavirus outbreak continue to weigh heavily on investor sentiment. Central banks have deployed trillions of dollars to break the financial logjam, but stimulus measures have failed to pick up regional stocks. Seoul's Kospi is trading over 5% lower. Hong Kong's Hang Seng has lost over 4%. The Shanghai Composite is trading over 2% lower. Bucking up the trend, the Nikkei 225 gained over 2%. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. And there you have it. You're all caught up. Thank you for watching this bulletin here on Indus News. Of course, for the latest updates on these and other stories, you can always follow us on our social media at indus.news.